estimate the size of my desk in my office. Since you've never been there, you would only be guessing. If I asked you to estimate the size of this desk, table in front of us, you could do that. I have no reason to think that you cannot, but it's a normal standard question. Is there any reason, such as drug use or alcohol use in the recent few hours or past, that would affect your ability to either understand and comprehend what I ask, or for you to answer my questions?
No.
If you need to take a break at any time, please feel free to do so. All I ask is that you answer the pending question.
Okay.
Starting with your background, what is your education?
So do I have to answer all these questions?
I'll object when it's getting too much. This is basic
Okay.
information, yeah.
I'm educated through college,
Okay, which college?
the University of Vermont.
And did you get a degree there?
I did not.
Okay. Do you, are you from Vermont? Is that
No, I'm not.
where are you from?
I'm from California.
And do you have any real estate background? And before you answer that question, I could see there'd be an objection. If I ask something that's, again, if you don't understand the question, let me know.
I understand the question.
Okay. Do you have any real estate background?
No.
Objection, vague.
Okay. Do you have, well, let me ask it this way. Have you been a real estate broker?
No.
Have you been a real estate agent?
No.
Have you been involved in any type of real estate transactions?
Objection, do you mean as a purchaser or seller, or how does involved, what does that mean?
You could answer if you understand. If you don't, let me know.
I don't understand.
Have you sold property?
Have I
Real
sold
property.
Property.
Same objection, it's vague. Do you mean on his own behalf, or?
Well, you're not you haven't been a real estate agent or a real estate broker. So I'm asking you, I guess, have you personally sold any property?
No.
And when I say that personally, you've owned the property.
No.
Have you purchased any property on your behalf or as an agent for someone?
Would purchase property on my behalf or as an agent for someone? Yes.
Okay. And what properties would that be, or property?
Dickens Way.
Okay. And that's the property at issue.
That's the property Martha rented.
What is that address?
7810 Dickens Way, Gilroy, California, 95020.
Is that the only property that you rent?
Yes.
Have you rented any other real property?
No.
Objection, that's vague. Do you mean as a renter or as a landlord?
Okay. Have you rented as a landlord any other property?
No.
Have you gone to any real estate training seminars, programs, school?
No.
When did you come into ownership of, and I'm just going to call it the property, it's, what is the 78, what's the address of the property again?
7810 Dickens Way, Gilroy, California, 95020.
And if from hereafter just refer to the property or property, would you understand that?
I would.
Okay. If I'm ever going to refer to any other property, I'll be specific.
Thank you.
Let's see. Have you rented 7810 Dickens Way, the property, to anyone else besides Martha Sporer prior to February 1st, 2016?
Objection, relevance, and objection, this is seeks private information of third parties that have nothing to do with this.
I don't think any of those sort of objections that would apply to a deposition. Clearly to a trial, but not to a deposition. This would just lead to relevant information.
I don't think that's likely to lead to the.
Are you instructing your client not to answer that question?
You can answer if you want, but you don't have to reveal private information of third parties.
I will.
Wait, stop. On what grounds does he not have to provide private information to third parties at a deposition? What would you rely on that?
The California Constitution right to privacy. I don't think he's entitled, or I don't think you're entitled to private information of third parties. He can say whether or not he's rented the property to other people, but I don't think at this point he'd be entitled to that information.
Again, for a deposition, it's any question that could lead to relevant evidence. I could contact any of these third parties to find out relevant information on his communications with them. So you could object. It could lead to a motion to compel. You instruct your client the way you want.
Well, why don't you ask the question again? You can state whether you.
Can you ask the question again?
Sure. Prior to February 2nd, 2016, have you rented this property to anyone else?
Prior to February 2nd. And when
That's
did I
this
rent
year.
it to Martha?
February 2nd.
Okay. Yes, I have.
Okay. And who have you rented it to?
The list escapes me. I mean, what if I don't know the answer to something? Because I mean, I know that I rented it, but I don't know their name. I don't remember all their names.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
a good question.
Okay.
If you don't know,
Okay.
legitimately, and the answer is I don't know.
I would have to look up their names.
Okay, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Now, I won't instruct you on that. How many people have you rented to prior to February 2nd?
And again, you don't have to guess, but you can make an estimate.
I'm estimating, I think, 4 families.
And I may have asked this, and forgive me if I'm asking it again.
The address?
No, when did you come into possession or ownership of 7810 Dickensworth?
I would have to look that up as well. It's been many years.
Can you estimate?
I think 10 years ago.
And did you purchase the property?
I did.
And did you purchase the property individually, as a married couple, as a trust?
My wife and I purchased the property.
Well, I didn't ask you, what do you do for an occupation currently?
Do I have to answer that? Why does this have any relevance to what
I
we're doing
object- I
here?
object
And Bruce, could
on
you hurry
relevance
this up?
grounds.
This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I will answer your questions, but could you kind of get to the point?
I'm sorry, but you can't instruct me on how to.
I'm
conduct my
asking you
business.
to get to the point.
You could ask me.
Okay.
You could just state your general occupation.
Are you refusing to answer that question?
I'm an accountant.
Okay. Where do you work?
I work for myself.
And what's the name of your firm? Do you have? Are you an individual? Are you a corporation, an LLC?
I'm an individual.
Do you have documents of who you've leased this property to?
Everyone that leases the property executes a lease agreement, so yes.
Does the property have any mortgages on it?
Objection, relevance, privacy. You can answer the question if you want.
I'm not going to answer the question.
Okay, could you certify that question? Does it have any liens on the property?
I'm not going to answer
Same
that question
objections.
either.
And could you certify that? And does it have any encumbrances on the property?
Could you define encumbrances?
Anything other than a lien or mortgage, you don't know what an encumbrance would be on a real property?
I do not.
If you don't know, then I'm not gonna go further. Now, the lease agreement that you have, did you draft that?
No.
Okay. Where did you get that lease?
It is a product of multiple iterations that started with a draft from the internet, from the web.
Okay, mark this as exhibit. Do you do letters or numbers?
Letters or numbers.
Okay, mark that as exhibit 1, please. Even handed exhibit 1. Will you look at it? Do you recognize this document?
I do.
Is this the lease that you and Ms. Chesterman and Martha Sporer entered into?
It is.
Have you looked at every page to make sure it's correct?
I scanned it, and it definitely is familiar to me. But I am not reading the whole document right now.
Do you have any reason to believe this isn't the entire accurate copy of the lease?
I'm sorry, I missed the first.
Do you have any reason to believe this is not the full and accurate copy of this lease?
This appears to be it. Yes, I have no reason to believe this is not the lease.
Going back to the property, how did you come in contact with Martha Sporer?
Martha responded to an ad I had placed on a internet website called Craigslist.
When did you put the ad onto Craigslist prior to Martha responding?
I don't recall exactly when, but a few weeks before.
Did
It-
you get? I'm sorry.
It had only been listed a few weeks.
Did you get any other responses to that?
Yes.
How many responses did you get?
I don't remember.
If you don't remember.
I don't
that's-
remember.
Can you estimate?
10.
Do you have any records of who contacted you?
I might.
What kind of records would they be?
So they're emails, and I typically discard them afterwards, and that's why I answer that I might.
And out of those 10, how many of them showed interest in actually leasing the property?
All 10. Sorry.
I was going to say objection vague as to what showing interest means, but you've already responded.
Okay, well, let's follow that up. When I said show interest and you said yes, what to you does showing interest mean?
So if they request to see it or a tour, I assume that's interest in it.
Okay. So out of the 10, how many did you actually show the property to?
I can approximate that answer. I want to say 3.
Out of the 3, did any offer to enter into a lease agreement with you?
Is this including Mrs. Sporer?
Okay, let's go with that. Out of the 3, does that include Ms. Sporer?
I don't understand the question.
Okay. You said 3 people toured the property, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
Out of the 3, was one of them Martha Sporer?
No. Martha did not tour the property. Martha just showed interest and wanted to rent it right away.
So
Martha's daughter did tour the property on her behalf.
So would there be 4 people that were interested, including Martha Sporer?
Again, I'm estimating. I don't recall, so if you want to include Martha's daughter, then 4.
Out of the 4, did any actually ask for a lease agreement?
Did any ask for a lease agreement? No. Well, Martha did. So yes, Martha, 1.
Okay. And how did Ms. Sporer contact you, Martha Sporer?
By email and by text and by phone calls. By text, I mean text messages.
And when was the first contact she made towards you?
I don't remember the date.
Would it have been around the end of January?
I don't remember when her first contact was.
Can you estimate approximately when?
Shortly after I had listed it, approximately a week after I listed the property.
And when she first contacted you, did you respond by offering to show her the place?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She was too far away to see it. She asked if her daughter could see it on her behalf.
Was arrangements made for her daughter to see the place?
Yes.
When did her daughter, and by daughter, is that Tanisha Sporer?
Yes.
When did Tanisha Sporer view the property?
Approximately a few days after contact had been made. I tend to show it fairly quickly after.
Did Tanisha Sporer meet you at the property?
Yes.
Was that the first time you ever met her?
Yes.
And had you ever met her after that,
No.
personally? To try to narrow down the time when you showed the place to Tanisha, the lease agreement, Exhibit 1, shows it was signed on what date?
The lease agreement was executed on February 6th.
So, can you estimate how many days or weeks before February 6th you showed the property to Tanisha Sporer?
It's only an estimate.
Yeah, if you
I
can.
estimate 2 weeks before.
That's fine.
Okay.
Did Tanisha Sporer indicate she was an agent that could rent the property for her mom?
Objection, vague, calls for the legal conclusion, but if you understand the question, I can answer.
And if you object, I don't have to answer?
You still have to answer if I object,
Okay.
unless I instruct you not to.
Okay. Could you restate the question?
I understand. I'll try to make it clear. During the tour, what did Tanisha say to you about her role in inspecting the property?
Objection, lacks foundation. You can answer.
Well, what? Oh, okay.
Do you want me to answer?
If you.
I mean, I can answer the question to the best of my ability. She had indicated to me, Martha had indicated to me that she wanted her daughter to see the property on her behalf because she lived too far away to come down and see it. And because I had other parties interested in seeing the house. Martha wanted to make sure that someone on her behalf saw the house. So Martha asked me if I would meet her daughter. She introduced me to her daughter over text message. and I proceeded to meet Tanisha at the property.
So you had direct text messages with Tanisha.
Yes.
Do you still have copies of those text messages?
No.
Did Tanisha make any comments about the property to you?
Yes, Tanisha thought the property was very nice and mentioned it would be perfect for her mom, and offered that she would relay the message to her mom that the property was in good condition and clean and nice.
When was your next contact with Martha Spohr after showing the property to Tanisha Spohr?
I don't remember. Shortly after, if not the same day.
Do you recall how that communication occurred?
Either by text or by phone.
Did you ever email with Martha Spohr?
Only the initial response to her query about the Craigslist ad for the property. Everything after that was done by telephone or by message, text message.
And you wouldn't have any copies of those text messages with Martha, would you?
No.
What was said in the next communication with Martha Spohr after you met with Tanisha?
I don't remember.
When was the first communication with Martha Spohr in which she indicated an interest in the property?
Could you restate the question?
After Tanisha Spohr viewed the property, you then spoke with Martha Spohr, correct?
Correct.
What did Martha Spohr communicate to you at that time?
She asked me if I would enter into a lease agreement with her for 6 months.
And that obviously would have been before February 6th, correct? When the lease-
Yes, correct. The lease is February 6th, so we talked before she executed the lease agreement.
And how did you get the lease agreement to her?
I emailed it to her. I emailed a PDF of the lease agreement to her.
After you emailed it to her, was there further communications with Martha Spohr?
Yes.
And what was that communication? What was said?
We, let me think for a second because I don't recall exactly, but I believe it was about the pool, the property's pool, that is. The location to, with respect to food places around there, shopping places, Nob Hill, Safeway, that type of stuff. Just further description about the neighborhood and the town.
Was this before or after you sent her a lease?
I don't recall.
After you sent her a lease, well, first of all, you don't recall when you sent her the lease, correct?
I know it was sometime before February 6th.
Did she contact you about any of the terms of the lease?
Not that I can recall. She did not dispute the lease agreement.
Did she say she was going to sign the agreement?
She was very excited about moving to the Bay Area and said she was going to sign it and send me a check.
Okay. Did you respond to her?
Yes.
And what was your response?
I said, sounds great. When will you be able to see the property and meet me at the property?
And what was her response?
She said sometime in February.
Was arrangements made to meet like you were asking or talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And when was that meeting supposed to occur at? Or when?
Well, I never was able to get her to commit to a particular day. So she kept saying, she would get back to me on when she'd be coming to the area, because it is far for her.
Was arrangements ever made
What
for
do you
her
mean?
to come and meet with you physically?
Yeah, we were supposed to meet at the house to hand over the keys.
What date was that supposed to occur on?
She never got back to me on a date.
Was there a time when you were expecting her to come down?
Yes.
What date was that?
I don't remember the exact date. I would have to look it up. But it was a weekend prior to, let me think. Let me just look at this for a sec. Yeah, so February 1st. It'd be a weekend right around February 1st.
Okay. I'm not trying to trick you here. You said that there wasn't communications to make a meeting, but you were going to meet around February 1st. So, to clarify for me,
Sure.
how did you make this arrangement to meet around February 1st?
Via text message.
So there was some communication about meeting,
Yes.
and there was arrangements made to meet,
Yes.
and it was to meet at the house,
The property.
at the property. This was before the lease was signed.
I don't recall. No, it would have been after the lease was signed. I didn't make any arrangements to meet Martha at the property until she signed the lease agreement.
So this lease was signed on February 6th. You're saying that somewhere around the first weekend of February, that would have had to been after February 6th.
That's correct then. So I was estimating the time. I don't remember
Okay.
when. Yeah.
But definitely, the lease had already been signed, according to you, when you were going to meet with Martha.
Yes.
Objection, do you mean when he made the arrangement to meet her, or on the date that he was
On
going
the-
to meet her?
On the date that you were intending to meet with Martha, the date you were scheduled to meet with Martha, was that before or after the lease was signed?
It is after the lease was signed. I would never meet a tenant at the property to hand over keys unless the lease agreement was executed.
But you would show the property to someone interested before they signed the lease.
Correct.
So if Martha had been interested in seeing the property before signing the lease, you would have showed it to her.
In fact, I offered several times, and that's why we showed it to her daughter instead of her.
Do you have any record or documentation of the date you were scheduled to meet Martha at the?
I do not. Martha might.
Did you? Well, what happened on the date that you were supposed to meet Martha?
So it was a weekend, and I had driven down there just to do a kind of a pre-walkthrough myself, make sure the property was ready and looking good. If memory serves me right, I had tried calling Martha several times and got no response. So I returned home. I had more business in Gilroy the following day. So I went back to the property the following day. And the reason I say it's a weekend, because I know it was a Saturday and Sunday. So I went back on a Sunday and tried calling Martha and got no response and returned home.
On the date that you were supposed to meet Martha, did you have any text messages with Tanisha?
I don't recall.
What time were you supposed to meet Martha at the property?
I don't recall.
Was it morning, afternoon, evening?
I don't recall.
But it was definitely on the weekend and probably a Saturday, because you said the next day you went back.
It was definitely on a weekend.
Okay. And then the following day you said you did something, tried to contact Martha again? Or?
Yeah, I tried to contact her both days, Saturday and Sunday, on
So-
that weekend.
So it probably was a Saturday that you had scheduled to meet Martha.
I can't answer that. I don't recall which day it was.
On the following day that you were supposed to meet with her, Did you say that you then tried to call Martha again, or you went back to the property?
Tried calling Martha and went back to the property.
And you're fairly certain that was also a weekend?
Yes.
So it's very likely that the date you were supposed to meet Martha was a Saturday, and then you went back because it was still a weekend, a Sunday, unless we'll check a calendar, but it was a 3-day weekend, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
You can answer.
I'll answer it. I'm not going to answer it again, actually, no. And you can certify that if you want. But I've answered the question enough.
Do you know if it was a 3-day weekend?
I don't.
When was the first time you talked with Martha after the intended meeting?
I don't think I ever talked to Martha after the intended meeting. I don't recall ever talking to her after we were supposed to transition keys and garage remotes and show her where the mailbox was, etc.
Did you ever talk to Tanisha after the intended meeting with Martha?
I did. I reached out to sometime after Martha never showed. I was concerned for Martha and I tried calling Martha several times and texting Martha. Got no responses and wasn't sure what was happening, why she had failed to ever come meet me at the property. I knew I had an executed lease agreement. I had a check from her. So I was concerned for her well-being, to be quite honest with you. And I texted her daughter. And it was either at that time or an earlier conversation with her daughter when I was at the property with her, where she said, sometimes my mom disappears. And I wasn't sure what to make of that. But I just was like, and I said to myself, she must be busy or occupied doing something else. So at that point, I stopped trying to call Martha.
When you spoke with Tanisha after that intended meeting, or actually didn't speak, it was a text message. Is that what you said?
It was, I don't recall if it was text or phone.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Yeah.
Did Tanisha say anything other than what you just said?
She may have, but that's what I remembered.
And you're not sure whether this conversation was after that intended meeting or at that first meeting when you met her at the property?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I seem to recall reaching out to Tanisha when her mother didn't show.
Did you at any time tell Tanisha that you thought Martha was screwing with you?
No. I never thought Martha was screwing with me.
Did Tanisha ever contact you apologizing and offering to post a rental on some group Facebook page in Gilroy?
No.
Can you read that question back?
Did Tanisha ever contact you, apologize, and offering to pursue her last one? Did Tanisha ever contact you, apologize, and an offering to post a rental on some group Facebook page in Gilroy? Answer no.
Okay. I just wanted to hear it.
The lease agreement that was signed, it's my understanding it was an echo signing through Adobe. Is that correct?
It was either Adobe EchoSign or the DocuSign service by another company, one of the two.
Who signed it first?
Martha.
She returned it to you, and on the same day, according to dates, you and Ms. Chesterman signed it?
Correct.
And did you then send Martha Sporer a copy of the executed?
The service does that on everyone's behalf.
And then, how did Martha pay you?
Personal check.
Okay. Did she send it after the 6th?
Yes.
And when did you receive that check?
I don't recall.
Was it within a week?
I don't recall.
Can you estimate when you got it?
Within a week.
And then, did you deposit it right away?
A few days afterwards.
Who did you deposit the check with?
My bank.
Which is?
Citibank.
And you would have statements of showing that deposit?
Yes.
Then, you had made a request to TransUnion for a credit check of Martha. Is that correct?
I have a service that probably did that on my behalf. It's a rental service where it's like a screening service for potential tenants.
And do you have to make this request each time? Let me ask this question a more clear way. How does TransUnion find out that you want a credit check of someone?
Objection. He didn't testify that he used TransUnion. He said he has a rental screening service.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Who was your rental screening service?
I don't recall the exact name, but it's something like, Safe Tenant or something like that. It's a website.
Safe Tenant?
Something along those lines.
Okay. How long have you had this service?
I have used the service several times over many years.
Okay. Is this a service that you pay for per request?
Yes.
When did you, if you at all, made a request to have Martha Sporer credit check?
When I send anyone, in this case Martha, this lease agreement, it goes along with a link to and a request from me to fill out or to go through this Safe Tenant website.
Okay. So carry me through this process. You have a lease agreement. You now email it to Martha Sporer. When you email it through a link of Safe Tenant. Is that correct?
No. The lease agreement goes by PDF email from me, and at the same time, I execute, because I have her email address, or the tenant's email address, I submit her email to the website Safe Tenant, so they go at the same time, but from two different sources. The PDF comes from me, And that is an email. I've never seen what that looks like on the other side, but
So you CC Safe Tenant, is that what you do?
no.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know how this process works.
Sure.
You email, attach an PDF to Martha.
Correct.
How does Safe Tenant learn about your request?
I submit Martha's email address to the website
I see.
that does my
A website.
tenant screening.
A website, okay. And then at that time, do you have to make a payment?
No. The potential tenant pays for the service.
Does the tenant, how does the tenant find out that they're going to pay for this service?
The service asks them for payment.
Okay. Your lease agreement, as I look through it, is there anywhere in that lease agreement that says the tenant's going to pay for Safe Tenant investigation fees?
No.
Did you ever at any time tell Martha that she would be paying for this?
No.
Did you at any time tell Martha Sporer that she would be investigated by Safe Tenant?
I tell.
Objection, I think that
Thank you.
misstates what Safe Tenant does.
What does Safe Tenant do?
They provide a screening process for potential tenants, and it includes, I think, a criminal background check and a credit check. Criminal background and credit.
And when I said investigation, in your mind, what's the difference between a screening process and an investigation?
I don't know.
Okay. So am I incorrect if I use the term investigation? Does that mean something different to you?
Yes.
Okay. What difference would an investigation of Martha Sporer be versus a screening process of Martha Sporer?
Well, an investigation is something law enforcement does to dig into someone's past, and
Right.
this is a criminal record check. I think it checks a few databases across the state to see if they've committed any crimes, and then it runs their credit check, which returns a score. So I know if they're either a criminal or bad at paying bills.
Okay. And is there anywhere in your lease agreement that states that a condition of the property being leased to the tenant requires approval of you based on a Safe Tenant screening process?
No.
You said that at no time did you speak with Martha Sporer, and correct me if I'm misstating this, after the lease was signed. Is that correct?
I don't recall ever hearing from her again after she executed the lease and sent me a check.
Do not recall, or it would be inaccurate, that Martha Sporer contacted you about Safe Tenant wanting to do a screening process on her?
So let me restate that. She did call me or text me. It was text. She texted me afterwards, and I'd already received her check and her thing, and she asked me if it was mandatory for her to go forward with this Safe Tenant website. And I said, it's not mandatory, but it makes me feel a lot better. And she either said she didn't want to or for some reason couldn't. And I said, and I can quote my own words at the time, I said, it's not a deal breaker. And I remember using the word deal breaker.
This was via text,
Yeah,
and you would not have this text copy.
I don't. I've searched for all these text messages with my attorney, and I don't have them anymore.
Now that your memory's refreshed about speaking with Martha after the lease was agreement, Do you recall anything else being discussed with Martha?
Just more, I really don't know. I think we were just trying to nail down a time for her to come.
Do you recall approximately when this conversation occurred or text messages occurred?
I don't.
Well, it was obviously after the 6th, correct?
Yes.
Was it within a day, 2 days, 3 days? Can you estimate?
I can't.
Now, I contacted you on February 11th.
I remember that.
Okay. So it was between February 6th and February 11th.
That's fair to say.
Do you recall if it was closer to February 11th or February 6th?
I don't.
Now, when I contacted you on February 11th, do you recall that I gave an option either to revoke or void the lease or give Martha the keys?
I don't recall you giving me those two options, but I recall discussing either sending her the keys.
Do you recall, did you receive a letter from me?
I don't remember. I think I did. I don't recall.
I could get copies of these before we leave, can't I? Come on, this is Exhibit 2.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance to read Exhibit 2?
I did.
Did you receive that letter?
I did.
Okay. And did that accurately reflect what we had communicated in a phone conversation, I believe that morning?
It accurately represents what you said to me that day, yes.
At any point since that letter, have you sent me the keys to the property?
No, I did not.
Have you ever sent the keys to Martha Sporer?
No, I did not. Can I see the Exhibit 1, the lease agreement?
Can we make copies now so that we all have copies?
Sure, that'd be great. Can we?
Just two copies of these certificates?
Yeah.
I can make it till 8. It's too late for me to change it.
Just make sure I get those back by the end of the day.
Yes.
And here's copy number 1 and copy number 2.
Thank you.
Just going to go through the lease now. Paragraph 3C says the rent would be prepaid. I just want to clear this up. I think it's probably a typo, but it
Excuse
says,
me.
on 3C, it's $17,400 for rent for the 6 months, and 1 month's deposit $2,900. Tenant's prepaid rent will be applied to monthly rent due in accordance with rental terms in this agreement. That 1 month's deposit, the $2,900, is not a prepaid rent, or that is the security deposit referenced in paragraph 4. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you recall, now that you had a conversation with Martha after the agreement was signed, whether you received the prepaid rent prior to that conversation with Martha Spohr or after?
Could you restate the question?
Sure. You spoke with Martha Spohr after this lease agreement was signed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You also have testified that you did receive the prepaid rent and security deposit, correct?
Yes.
Now, that conversation with Martha, was it before or after you received the rent?
What conversation with Martha?
The conversation you had with Martha after signing the lease agreement. First you forgot, and then you recalled that you did have a conversation with Martha after this lease agreement was signed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That conversation
Got it.
is the one I'm talking about.
Understood.
Did you receive the rent before or after that conversation?
I don't remember.
Would you remember if you deposited that check before or after the conversation with Martha?
Before. I'm estimating before.
And I don't think I've asked this, just to be clear, the agreement was signed on February 6th. Did you by chance receive the rent check before February 6th?
No.
So it's definitely after February 6th.
Yes.
Been sent regular mail?
Yes.
Now, this is a prepaid rent for 6 months, correct?
Yes.
Are you holding that money in trust, or did you just deposit it in your personal account?
Just deposit in my personal account.
And that would be with Citibank?
Correct. It's CITI, Citibank.
And same with the security deposit, the $2,900. Would that be in a interest-bearing account, separate, or is it in your
Same
personal?
Citibank account.
And just to clarify, I think this must be a typo too. In paragraph 5, it's referring to tenant's immediate family consisting of his 2 minor children. That's who can use these premises. I take it this must be like...
That's a
something-
typo.
Okay.
And Bruce, what was the typo in C? I don't see it.
Oh, because this is in the prepaid rent section, when you talk about 1 month's deposit, when I read that, I'm interpreting the 2,900 is a prepaid rent, since it's in that section. I just wanted to clarify that that 2,900 was actually the security deposit.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
We're going off the record for a second. Let's find out what that is.
Fire alarm? Must be a fire alarm.
Must be.
Wow, back in grade school. Do a fire alarm.
Alarm or fire?
I don't think this is a drill, because they didn't warn us, so we might have to fire alarm.
I'm not staying in the building.
This is a first.
I'm worried about my records. This is a fire drill. I don't want the fire to burn down my records.
Yeah, then.
Could we just stay here, or?
I think it's a drill, but,
Okay. I think we left off, you had asked me about 3C. Did I clarify?
You did,
why
thank
it
you.
is? Okay.
Thank you, Bruce, yes.
Has Martha Spohr defaulted or failed to meet any of the conditions of the lease agreement?
Objection calls for a legal conclusion.
Well, you can answer if you
Yeah, if you understand the question, you can answer. But
I don't
do
understand
not
the
understand the
question.
question. Okay. I hate to go through each one of these terms. I'm trying to think of a way to not go through each term. You entered into this California residential lease agreement, correct?
I did.
You understood each of the terms, correct?
I do.
Okay. Are any of the terms, and you understand them, has Martha not fulfilled any of the terms of this lease agreement?
Has Martha not fulfilled any of the terms of this lease agreement? Can I have a minute?
Absolutely. Take your time.
Bruce, could you restate that question again?
Sure. You've had an opportunity to read through the California Residence Lease Agreement, Exhibit 1. Are there any terms or provisions of this agreement that you feel Martha has not complied with?
No.
Prior to entering this agreement, or actually I'll even go further back, prior to Martha Sporer filing a lawsuit and serving it on you, were there any written communications between you and Martha in which you convey any conditions or demands of her?
No.
Paragraph 14 of the lease agreement, it allows a provision allowing access by the landlord at all reasonable times and all reasonable means without notice. Let me step back one question. Have you rented the property to anyone else since February 6, 2016?
Yes.
When did that rent, when did those tenants
Gosh.
enter into a lease agreement?
I'd have to look it up. I don't recall the exact date.
Okay. Do you have a lease agreement with them?
I do. I think it's April 1st. I'm estimating April 1st, 2016.
And how long is that lease for?
It's a 12-month lease.
And what's the amount of rent they're paying?
I don't recall exactly. 2,800, I estimate. 2,800.
Estimate, okay. And how did you find these tenants?
I posted an ad on Craigslist.
When did you post it?
I don't recall.
Do you have any records of when you posted it?
I'm sure I do.
And what kind of records would those be?
Email correspondence or an automated email from Craigslist website.
So between the time of February 1st, 2016, and sometime when you leased this property, maybe in April, did you ever enter into the property's premises?
Did I ever enter into the property?
Did you go into the house on the property?
No.
So did you ever show the house to these current tenants?
Yes.
Okay, so you did enter the
Maybe I
house.
don't understand the question.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you could restate that for me.
Did you enter into the property after February 1st and before you leased the property to these new tenants?
Yes.
And how many times did you do that?
Twice.
And for what purpose?
To show the house to the new tenants.
Did you show it to more than one?
I showed it to two couples, one of which is the current occupant, one of which I ended up renting it to.
Do you have records of who this other potential renter was?
I don't.
Emails with them?
Emails.
So you do have emails?
I don't anymore.
No phone messages, written phone messages, anything like that?
No.
When did you show it to the other potential tenant?
A few days before I rented it, so late March, estimated.
When you entered the property during this period of February 1st to when the tenant took over, did you provide any notice to Ms. Spohr or myself?
No.
I think we're toward the end. After February 1st, you did not give my client, Martha Spohr, the keys. Did she have any other way to enter the home?
No.
And I believe you're asking for attorney fees. Let me double check. Yeah, you are. To date, what are your attorney fees?
I don't know. I could estimate them.
That's fine.
A couple $1,000.
Back to the safe tenant service. Did you send any information, request to them to cease their screening process of Martha Spohr?
Objection, lacks foundation.
I think we've established you contacted safe tenant to conduct a screening process of Martha Spohr, correct?
Correct.
At any time after that, did you communicate with safe tenant?
No.
Did you send them? Is there? I guess. Let me think about that.
May I?
There's no question pending, so it's up to your attorney.
So, okay, so.
We can go off the record for a second.
So there's, if she never,
So she has to activate.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what I was gonna tell him.
Yeah.
So,
Back on the record.
when you send someone, when I notify safe tenant, which isn't the right name, by the way, for the record, but if the potential tenant never clicks on the link or follows the email to the website, then there's no action. There's nothing to cancel.
And you said safe tenant. I thought that's what you said that was called. What is the name of the service?
I don't.
Objection, asked and answered. He had said it was something like Safe Tenant. We were using Safe Tenant as basically the name just as a place filler because he didn't remember the name of the service.
If I'm going to try to find who safe tenant is or their website, what would you Google to find it?
I would Google California tenant rental screening.
And the service or the company name is something close to the safe tenant?
That's correct.
Okay. Does safe tenant send you any information about whether a potential person that is to be screened has not responded?
No.
Do you only pay if they respond, or do you pay once you make the request?
Only if they.
Objection asked and answered. I think he said the tenant pays. He doesn't pay for the service.
So then if the tenant doesn't respond, no payment is made. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I think we're just about there. I received, I think, an email that Ms. Chessman was not coming to the settlement conference. Was that
And deposition.
and deposition? Okay, it wasn't
Yeah.
clear about the deposition.
Yeah, and I said that we can reschedule it after if we don't settle today.
Okay. And what is Ms. Chesterman's involvement with the property?
She's the boss.
Okay. Is it owned as marital property?
Yes.
And joint tenancy? Do you know, if you know what joint tenancy?
I don't know what that means, but we're married and we bought it while we were married.
Okay. And both your names are on the title?
I believe so.
Okay. And so that's the reason she entered into the lease agreement, if you know?
She likes to be on the lease agreement.
Did she have anything to do with negotiating this lease agreement?
No.
Was she at any time made known who Martha Spohr was prior to entering this lease agreement?
No.
When did she first find out about Martha Spohr?
When I got the phone call from you.
Well, it probably had to be before that because she signed a lease
No,
agreement.
that's
with
true.
Martha Spohr.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
She probably, around the time when I came home and said, we've, got a tenant.
Okay. Did she make any inquiries about Martha Spohr to you?
Maybe where's she from? Who is she?
And I'm asking you these questions because she's not going to be here.
Sure.
I'm trying to avoid
Well,
future questions.
and I'll do my best to answer them, yeah.
Whenever you rent these properties, does Ms. Chesterman become involved? You said with Martha she wasn't, but how about other tenants?
She does not get involved with this rental property.
What does she do for an occupation?
She's a stay-at-home mom.
And is she involved with collecting the rents or anything to do with these properties?
Nothing. She helps me clean it once in a while after a tenant moves out.
Do you recall getting discovery requests from me? And if you don't know what discovery requests are, like form interrogatories?
I don't. If you could describe what that is, I could probably answer better.
Just off the record.
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and what?
Yes, I do. I did receive that from you.
Are you a CPA?
No.
On this board, tell you not to cash the rental checks?
No.
At any time, did she do anything to stop them from being negotiated,
Negotiated?
cashed?
No.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation. That's why I went so quickly.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
We're done?
And did council want copies of the transcripts today? Or-
I will want.
Oh, yeah, if you wanted it transcribed, based on it.
Yes, I do want to transcribe.
Okay, and would you like a copy?
No.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Thank you very much. I think there's just a few spelling clarifications I wanted to make.
I don't know if I have the address. Let me make sure I have it.
For this afternoon?
Yeah. Actually, yes, I think you gave it to me right here.
I have it for you. Want a copy of it?
Sure. Thank you.
San Jose Bar Association. 31 North 2nd Street, 4th floor.
His daughter's name, how do you spell the name?
TANISHA.
One more time, Bruce.
31
I'm sorry.
North.
I'm sorry, let me get my notes up. 30,
That was it? Wow, that's pretty good.
31 North.
2nd Street,
Okay.
4th floor.
4th floor.
That's the San Jose
2
Bar
blocks
Association.
that way.
At the San Jose Bar Association. Okay.
2 blocks that way.
Oh, okay.
I think it's at Santa Clara.
Did you say Santa Clara Bar Association?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's the.
We're renting a room there.
There's a Starbucks
Oh, okay.
and an Ike's right there.
Oh, I know where that is,
It's
yep.
right next to, yeah.
Cool.
Are you by chance a Santa Clara bar member?
I am not anymore. I used to be. Why?
You get a discount if you are.
Yeah, no.